Welcome back, Libromaniacs. So today I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from two different books. Both of them are dealing with cryptozoology. Specifically, they are dealing with, Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, Alma, Captar, whatever you want to call them, Wild Man, Abominable Snowman. There's a lot of different names for this big hairy brute, and it's pretty much known all over the world. They really actually have like three classifications of them. In the Pacific Northwest, it's known as Sasquatch and Bigfoot. That one is usually considerably taller than the other ones. In Eurasia, around the Caucasus Mountains, there's it's known as Alma or Kaptar. And then in Tibet, in the Himalayas, it's known as Yeti or the Abominable Snowman. Those are the three main ones, and the Alma and Kaptar isn't as big as the Pacific Northwest one. It is usually described between 5 and 6 feet, and I believe that holds true for the Abominable Snowman and Yeti. It's also between 5 and 6 feet. All of them are shaggy wild men, upright, walking on their hind legs. They're not quadrupeds. They're not quadrupeds that are temporarily walking bipedal. So yeah. The now what's interesting is not only does science, the scientific community has been talking about the missing link since Darwin, and here we have reports of this missing link. It's like, oh, here's a hominid that's hairy, that seems to be human, but isn't quite human, and da 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 da, and it's all dismissed. It's all oh, that's a myth. It doesn't exist, and the reason is because they're in the Bible. The Bible calls them the seirim, Seirim, and that's sometimes translated as satyrs. I think that's how it's translated in the King James Version, and it's an accurate translation. Satyrs are these goat men. However, if you look at like in Greek times, and basically in the classical period, these things are depicted as they have the hind legs of a goat, and so they have like these hoofs, they have horns, they have a tail, and they have an erection, and they're like half man, half goat. Well, the earlier depictions of them, if you look at like Etruscan vases, they're just depicted as shaggy men. They're not. And that's actually what the word seirim means. The word seirim from the Bible means shaggy ones, and sometimes that gets translated as shaggy he goat, but it really means shaggy man or shaggy one, and so that's why this is quote unquote a myth, because it confirms the Bible. So even though science has been requiring a missing link to explain the jump from these great apes to us, or I guess we're not technically descended from great apes because they have they have an extra pair of chromosomes. So there's this common ancestor that's believed to exist, blah 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 and whatnot. Now Neanderthals used to be considered part of this progression of evolution. So a Neanderthal used to be believed to be a direct human ancestor, and now it is believed, well, then it became a cousin. It's like, oh, it's not actually directly in our line, it's kind of an offshoot, and it was a dead end. And now they're literally, now that now that European scientists have discovered that Europeans have traces of Neanderthal DNA, I believe it's like up to 4%. They're like, oh, well, that then all of a sudden there was this great reappraisal of Neanderthal. It was all of a sudden it wasn't this brutish caveman. It's now this peaceful, intelligent thing that just died off because it couldn't hunt rabbits or some nonsense. So they completely, rewritten the narrative on Neanderthals now that European scientists are, they got like part Neanderthal DNA in them. So, but anyways, what's interesting is places where there are known to be Neanderthal were places that there were where they found like Neanderthal remains, and they're like, oh, Neanderthals were in this area up until 10 or 8,000 years ago or whatever. These are the same areas where they're sighted, where these wild men are sighted, and in some cases the footprints are like, if you read, I believe it's in Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman book, he talks about how the footprints are identical. Like Neanderthal footprints are identical to these footprints for the Almas and Kaptars in the Eurasian area of the Caucasus Mountains. They're the wildmen there. The footprints that are reported there are identical to Neanderthal footprints. So here's a footprint match, a size match, and crazily enough, so satyrs are always, depicted with erections. Well, Neanderthals had a penile sheath. It's like a dog, and like if you stand a dog up on its hind legs, it kind of looks like he has an erection. That's the same thing with Neanderthals. So this is a perfect match for satyrs. This is what the seirim are, and in the seirim are named after the Seir mountain range. And guess what? There's Neanderthal remains in this area. So it's like, hello, people. This is a slam dunk case of cryptozoology. All the indigenous reports, all the modern day sightings are aligning with a species that existed. Now the catch is, people are like, well, how come we haven't caught one yet? We're not talking about an ape. We're not talking about something with half our brain size. We're talking about a human. And a human that is incredibly rugged and badass. And this is their territory. So good luck. That's like saying a city man who's never been in the woods before is going to go in the middle of, some forest in the Pacific Northwest, and he's going to find, take a city guy and then take the best hunter tracker, one of these guys that Joe Rogan interviews, and they go out and they're hunting like half of the year, and they're in the wild half of the year, and they're living off the land. Tell me the city guy is going to find the mountain man. He's going to find this super tracker. There's not a chance. There's not a chance city dweller is going to go out into the woods and he's going to track down this other guy. This other guy, he will never find a trace of that guy because he doesn't want to be found, and that isn't his city guy's territory, isn't the mountain or isn't the forest. Same thing with this. You're not going to go find a Neanderthal. Good luck. You may bump into one on accident, and that's always what happens. You're not going to go into its territory. It's a human. It's an incredibly rugged, durable, tough, badass hunter-gatherer human. You're never going to catch it. You're not going to find it. You're not going to, maybe with drones and stuff. But anyways, I wanted to read another key point about this subject. And this is from the book Forbidden Archaeology, and it has a section in there on cryptozoology and on wildmen. And we're going to start with, alrighty. Is it really possible that there could be an unknown species of hominid on this planet? Many will find this hard to believe for two reasons. They suppose that every inch of the earth has been quite thoroughly explored, and they also suppose that scientists possess a complete inventory of the earth's living animal species. Both suppositions are incorrect. First, even in countries like the United States, there remain vast, unpopulated, and little traveled areas. In particular, the northwestern United States still has large regions of densely forested mountainous terrain which, although mapped from the air, are rarely penetrated by humans on the ground. Second, a surprising number of new species of animals are still being found each year, about 5,000 according to a conservative estimate. As might be expected, the great majority of these, some 4,000, are insects. Yet Hevelmans noted, quite recently in the mid-1970s, there were discovered each year around 112 new species of fish, 18 new species of reptiles, and 10 new species of amphibians, the same number of mammals, and 3 or 4 new species of birds. Most of the mammals were small, and this might lead one to doubt that a large mammal such as a wild man might someday enter the list of living species. But the 20th century has seen the discovery of many large species, some known from native reports which were originally disbelieved. I'm going to skip ahead here to the summary. So it is not completely outside the realm of possibility that science may someday come to fully accept the existence of wild men, which may prove to be previously unknown types of hominids or primates, or surviving representatives of fossil hominids such as the Australopithecines, Homo erectus, or the Neanderthals. It would not be the first time that science has found examples of living fossils. And another passage from that book I wanted to read. It is interesting to note that science has recognized the existence of many fossil species on the strength of their footprints alone. Hevelman stated, the hypotheses and reconstructions of cryptozoology regarding animals actually alive are no more daring, questionable, fantastic, or illegitimate than those upon which paleontology has based its reconstruction of fauna of past ages. It seemed perfectly legitimate to give the scientific name Cheirotherium to a fossil genus known only by its tracks, found in Germany, England, France, Spain, Italy, and the United States, and of which some 20 species have been described. Yet, at the same time, it seemed ridiculous, premature, and absurd to describe scientifically the Himalayan yeti, known not only by many tracks not identifiable with any known animal, but also by morphology and behavior as related by numerous eyewitnesses. And the other passage I wanted to read regarding the seirim comes from Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman Legend Come to Life. Our main concern must, however, rest with the creature who terrified the Israelites during the Exodus from Egypt and their period of wandering in the Sinai desert. These were the Shedim, the destroyers, who had been known to the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the seirim, the hairy ones. So, some commentary on both of those passages. Like the Cheirotherium, here's this hoof print that they're finding on all these different countries, and they've got 20 species of them based upon only the tracks. No fossils, no remains, no eyewitness accounts, nothing. And yet, something like a wild man, which is actually required, the missing link has been talked about since the time of Darwin, for a century and a half. And so not only does science require something like that, but we have the tracks of it. We have eyewitness reports of it. Actually, in one of those books, I think it's Abominable Snowman, they talk about, it might be Hevelman's, it might be On the Track of Unknown Animals, but in one of those two books, they talk about a scientist actually got to examine the corpse of one, and then when it was lost afterwards. Now, both I believe both Hevelman's and Sanderson discuss things that have been proven to be frauds, like the Minnesota Iceman. It was not proved to be a fraud at that time, so they examined it based on what was known at that time. And I think they also talk about the Patterson footage. But even even with those frauds, the rest of the evidence that they have is more than sufficient.